All right, guys, it's Tim O'Connor. Today's special guest is Thomas Daniel Queter. Guys, we are going to have a blast. As you guys know, I do a little bonus content for the internet viewer. So I just wanted to stop in and say hi. Remember, this is being broadcast on WSL, WACK. So bear with the broadcast that's going on over the internet. It's a little different. You guys get extra content. And sometimes that content involves long pauses. So you're about to get a long pause, and then we're going to come back and start the show. All right, guys, it's Tim O'Connor, your Thursday host for A Free Solution, the platform I share with Kevin Wilson, that I share with Larry Sharp, that I share with Andrew Hollister, Craig. I can't remember Craig's last name, but he does a great job too. Guys, this show actually goes out with a huge thanks to WACK, a huge thanks to WYSL for making lunchtime libertarian politics not just a possibility, but a reality. And as you guys know, I wicked enjoy having wonderful, positive, proactive people come on this show and share their versions of liberty. And so today, which just happens to be December 16th, 2021, I have Thomas Daniel Queter joining me today. Tom, how you been, buddy?
Good, actually, and busy lately. Busy.
I hear you're causing trouble all over the place, brother.
Oh, well, you know, us libertarians, all we like to do is protect your rights and make people angry.
Is that what we do? I think maybe that is what we do.
Well, I mean, if you're not making some people angry, I suppose you're not doing it right.
A lot of people love the state, Tom, and if they end up angry with me, I guess they're supposed to.
To each their own, right? We do believe that as libertarians.
That's correct. They can be angry at me as long as they don't want to force their anger or force me into a cage because they're angry at me. And that would be a problem. So basically, we're coming up on the end of the year. A lot of towns have done this thing with marijuana legislation where they either opt in or opt out. And they can, then if they opt out, the town can call a referendum. And I think you, being a positive, proactive, liberty-minded person, have a good story to tell. Light it up, brother. The airwaves are yours.
So Guilford went through the same process that most places are going through right now. The town board set a meeting for early September that it then delayed to late September to decide whether or not to opt in or out of allowing legal cannabis dispensaries in town and on-site consumption facilities in town. You can separate those two things. We've looked into that. That was possible, but the town board didn't want to allow us to do that. So it all got lumped together on one ballot because we managed to pass a petition. The one dissenting voice in the town board, Matt Retz, someone I know, is a good guy, very liberty-minded Republican, and he came to me because he knew, you know, I'm a libertarian and I'm into cannabis because I'm a cannabis patient. And you know, he wanted to pass a petition for referendum. And we got working on it together. And it turns out, you know, the petition that was drawn up wasn't accurate. Remember this, Tim? We ran for Senate together.
I will tell everybody this. If you need help drawing up a petition and Queter has time, he's the guy to help you. He wrote up my petition. My petition itself was fine. It's the way that I signed it that was a problem.
Well, and that's just it, right? There's so many little rules, right? You got kicked off the ballot on a very minute technicality.
Absolutely. It's embarrassing that the system allows for that, to be honest with you. What they
put
did.
Your PO box, right? Isn't that why?
Well, no, it's actually worse than that. Check this out. The address I have been writing for 22 years was not my proper voting address. Okay. My mail comes to an address in the town of Maryland. Okay. My mail comes out of the Maryland post office box. I vote in Milford. I voted there for 22 years, but because I wrote Maryland and not Milford, my petitions were invalidated.
Oh, so it sounds like arbitrary rules triggered arbitrary rules
to keep people from interfering with the system. That's what
It's
it
a
is.
good example of these layers of arbitrary rules that are designed to make it so that the average people can't come together and have a voice in their government. A few years ago here in town, we saw a movement attempt something similar over a subsidized project that's being forced down the town's throat. And they failed largely over technicalities and timing. Two things that they have very strict control of in this state.
Yeah.
Now, however, in this instance, um, we got our petition together correctly. We got our petition signed. We got over double what was needed to pass the referendum. And it is, sadly, all about those technicalities with things like petitions and when you file and how you file, where you file, whether or not you can get the information out of your town board is sometimes an issue. It was not an issue this time. The reason I verified, or the way I verified the petition after I drew it up was by contacting the town clerk. And that worked. A lot of people just don't have the nerve to do that, right? Because they think they don't know, right? Or that they don't have the power, or that they can't do the thing.
I've found that while sometimes suffering from some boredom and some I don't know, dystopia, people that work for the town, people that are serve on these boards generally do their very best to try to listen to you, and if they can help you, they will. For the most part.
Yeah, well, and the town clerk in particular, right? I mean, that's
Right.
the fate when you go to the town hall. So, you're right. So Matt's definitely a good example of someone who was on the board because he wanted to represent the people. And he did not believe that vote represented the people. He did not believe it was doing what he was there to do. And that's why he wanted this petition for referendum. So yesterday, we voted on it here in town, December 14th, between noon and 8 p.m. Several hundred of us went to the town hall here in Guilford on Marble Road and voted whether or not to allow dispensaries and on-site consumption facilities to exist within town limits. And we voted it in 2-1. So that means Matt was right. Matt was right that there was not representation. And I had the privilege of being able to assist this.
So that's a great story. I think that the vote really says it all. And as so many people have heard on my radio show, we have a lot of small towns in upstate New York that are really suffering economically. Okay. Now, I don't believe that marijuana is going to be the panacea. It's going to be the cure all, but it's a step in the right direction. Decriminalization, deregulating. I love all of those things. And you know what? I'll be perfectly honest. I will probably never step foot in a cannabis dispensary. I don't believe it. I don't really enjoy marijuana. So it's not a thing for me, but
Right.
Let's be honest. There's lots of marijuana around. People are already selling it. And people can get excited about this new little craft business that's going to be springing up, right?
Right. So legal or not, cannabis, recreational cannabis has been our #1 cash crop, even in New York.
That's also true. That is a very
So
good
then,
point.
I mean, it only makes sense. Now, when we're talking about the economy of businesses, after 2020, any business that we could support is something we should do. It comes down to anything at this point needs to be supported to grow our economy and to grow it up. And we have locals pursuing that here. We have locals who want this here. They want to open a business in their town, not a huge corporation coming in and doing it. They want to farm it. They want to supply it. They want to retail it.
Yeah, I hear from trusted sources that marijuana grows reasonably well in this part of the state. Not that we don't have any firsthand knowledge, but I'm just saying I've heard that.
It grows quite well everywhere, Dem. They call
It's
it
a weed. Oh, so basically now Guilford is going to be on the slate for getting little marijuana dispensaries, little like farmers. Now, what's the deal with a farmer? Can a farmer just start growing it and selling it like local homegrown? Can that be the dispensary, or is there still 50 layers of rules?
Okay, so I don't believe direct sales from the farmer are allowed.
Okay,
That's a
of course
problem.
not.
That's of course a problem I would seek to address if I win. As you know, I am running for state senate.
That's
Go to
correct.
tomfor52.com, TOMFOR52.com, and consider a donation after you've read that policy. But ultimately, no, farmers and dispensaries are two different issues. Farmers were going to be here regardless of this vote, and it's imperative that we support all of the local businesses we can, as long as the townspeople want it in there or want it around. And here's the thing: the board made a decision.
I got to cut you off because you know what? We're coming up on that magic time where our sponsors get some attention from the radio audience. Once again, it's Tim O'Connor. It's WYSL out of Rochester, WACK in the beautiful Newark, New York. We will be right back. Queeter, you're hanging out?
I am.
All right.
I'm good with what
Bonus content for you, the internet viewer. You get to watch Tom and I plan the next phase of the show. Just kidding. We're going to insert a pause right now. And guys, remember, Tom needs our help with this campaign that he's running, and it's positive, proactive. These are the things that we need to do. But I'm going to count to about 10, and then we're going to break, and we'll come back live to the show. Not live. Hey, welcome back. Once again, it's me, Tim O'Connor, your Thursday host for A Free Solution. You guys heard right before the break, and I had to cut him off, but Tom was giving out his digits. He was talking about the fact that he's running for Senate. He's talking about this successful marijuana referendum where they overturned like the snidely whiplashes of the local governing body. They were making these sneaky decisions and they kind of tied things up. I think you kind of want to tell that story, right? How they kind of, that thing about having the vote at the end of September and how that maybe might have, you guys outfoxed them though. Tell that part of the story, would you, brother?
So it is assumed that they moved the vote to opt out of cannabis from early September to late September to prohibit the time necessary to pass a referendum and have the vote on the same day as the general election. And they did that because if that's why they did that, then they would have done that because that's a lower voter turnout.
I know why they did it for sure. They wanted to enforce their will and make sure they already had enforced their will. They wanted to make sure their will stayed enforced through whatever means necessary. And even at the lowest level of governing, and guys, look, I get it. There's people, if you bring marijuana to Thanksgiving dinner, like Timmy's probably, who knows, he's going to like break the TV or something. All right. Like marijuana is a totally dangerous drug that we just, it's, like those are the things that these people think. And like I said, I probably won't even go into a weed dispensary. I don't smoke marijuana, but it's not what these guys are afraid of. Let's be perfectly honest. It comes out of the ground. It grows well around here. I can't believe that we haven't gone full into it. Just said, hey, open up the doors, start growing weed and sell it. Like, I don't know. Am I crazy? What's that?
They've even restricted hemp. That doesn't make any sense.
I know. They restrict. They restrict everything to control everything. And I mean, I'm personally very unhappy with the tax structure and the local farmer can't sell it directly to a dispensary kind of thing. Like,
well, so they can sell it to a dispensary.
Oh, okay. Tell me how that works. You understand that whole interaction better.
So I'm not entirely sure if they're allowed to sell it directly to a dispensary or to a distributor, but they can control where it goes.
Okay.
However, I want to talk about this referendum a little bit. Remember?
Yeah, please.
Matt really felt that didn't represent the people, and that's what he was there to do. And that's what a referendum is for. And I need to point out one thing. This is the first referendum in Gilbert that has been successful ever.
Well, freedom is the way, brother.
We addressed an issue. We noticed an issue. Matt noticed it. Matt came to me, some other people. We whipped the vote, right? We talked to the community. I believe some advertisements were put out in the penny saver and even on the radio in favor of this. We made all kinds of social media posts describing how this is more of an economic decision right now than it is pro or anti-cannabis, because cannabis is legal in New York under its own structure. There is no keeping cannabis out of your town. If people want it, they're going to drive to the next town, which you can literally do in Guilford, right? Because Norwich and Oxford, they've opted in. So if Guilford opted out and Norwich and Oxford opted in, even if Guilford chose to opt in later, the business end of it would be much further developed in Oxford and Norwich, and ours would be behind the game. And that means that the jobs and the revenue, some of this revenue goes directly to the town, would not be here, right?
Mhm.
We'd be behind the game. Whenever you see an industry pop up that's new in an area, whoever gets there first usually has the advantage.
Well, the first to market principle is a reality, right? Like the first person that shows up on the scene, Tesla with his electric cars, like even though we've had the Priuses and stuff like that, he's going full electric. This is it. First to market. So when we talk about first to market, you're seeing an advantage for your town to be right there competing elbow to elbow with the big city of Norwich. I like that.
Absolutely. I mean, we're on Route 8, we're on Route 12, we're 8 miles from 88. We're in a heavy traffic area despite being such a small town. It's a great place to have a business that almost everybody that drives by might want to stop at.
Are they going to sell like food too? Can you combine them into little restaurants, boutique kind of things, or is it basically so controlled you can't do that?
No, so actually, there's the option of either, right? Either just dispensary or on-site consumption as well. However, the way the town board went about this, they forced us to accept both on the ballot at once instead of just picking just dispensing, which is just seemed like a better option for us to get it passed. So that's what we're
Right.
going. And that's why they refused to split it. We actually had a meeting where someone was telling you, if you talk to the state, they'll tell you how to split it. You can do this. And they just ignored it. They said, you didn't read the law, you don't know the law, but yet somebody who's heavily involved with the law is going, wait, you can ask the state. And yeah, it didn't happen. So they forced us to have that on-site consumption as well as just retail cannabis.
Did they think, let me ask you
mean,
this, did you think that they thought that more people would vote against it because there was going to be on-site consumption? They were just continuing their pattern of trying to stand against it indirectly, right?
Oh, absolutely. They were calling it a pop bar on the meeting and everything. I mean, it was so antiquated and adorable. You really just wanted to make sure you visited them in the old folks' home.
Well, look, there's old people that are, look, weed didn't just happen today, man. Like there's
No, it
old
didn't.
people that smoked a lot of pot back in the 70s and they're still out there going, hey, it's really not that bad. Those stories that they're telling you. So there's this anti-marijuana thing. On some level, I get it. They think that that's a cultural decay, but guess what? Their kids been smoking pot for decades. They've been jailing kids over this forever. It is time to change the culture, and it's time to talk about freedom. And honestly, I'll be honest with you again. While I'm not going to smoke pot, it's actually not a free enough market for me. Okay. It's very heavily controlled by the government. It's very taxed. It's very, very taxed. Okay. They just like the craft brew thing, they keep loosening up the reins because they're like, well, they start and they go away and they start and they go away because people can't get to market with it because of the rules, right? The rules are ridiculous and the taxation is silly. And so we beat up on entrepreneurs again with regulations, but at least
what you're talking about specifically is regulatory overhead. It's a forced hard cost. The government says you have to spend this much money and time just to get to market, just to be in business. And that takes away from the ethicability of running a profitable business.
Right.
If you can't run a profitable business, you're not being good for the economy. You see how that works?
I do, but a lot of people don't.
So, the other good thing, I mean, Tim, you know me, I'm a cannabis advocate.
Correct.
I've seen it heal the sick. I've seen it get people off of meth. I've seen it be better than pharmaceutical drugs. I personally have been recommended it by my doctor in the 90s as a child. So I believe in it. I've seen the proof. I know it. And here's one thing, right? Everybody's always been on board with medical cannabis, right?
Correct.
Even the town board, the people who didn't want this recreational cannabis were okay with medical cannabis. They were okay with the fact that there were very few dispensaries over an hour away that I couldn't get to as a medical patient.
Right. Right.
Right. So
I
they wanted to be okay. They just didn't want you to actually be able to get it.
Yeah, correct. So basically, check
So
this out. They
cannabis solves that problem.
they even have like cannabis drugs that are refined cannabis that they use to treat seizures and stuff like that, right? So they have it
Synthetic.
sewed up. Yeah, it's so expensive because they have a patent on marijuana, distilled marijuana. They do something to it to make it a little stronger. They find one of its, and remember our buddy Jay Cordell knows all the little details of marijuana, how many different
Yep.
products are in it, and maybe you know that as well. But there's actually anti-seizure medicine available in marijuana, and it's controlled by big pharma, and it's like $150 or $500 a treatment. It's ridiculous. We grow this. We can grow this in fields. Our neighbors can grow it. Stop.
It's in all the hemp.
What's that, buddy?
It's in all the hemp,
Yeah, exactly.
all of it. I want to speak to a misnomer that occurs in this conversation often. Hemp, cannabis, marijuana. Three things. Marijuana is a word made up by the government to scare you. It's supposed to sound Mexican from a time when the Mexican country was going through a revolution. They wanted everybody to be afraid of them. And hemp and cannabis are both cannabis. They're cannabis. There's no difference. The only differentiation is in law, unjust law, by the way.
A lot of laws are unjust, but go ahead.
So, we have to realize that this whole picture of cannabis has been drawn for us the way that they want us to see it. And in order to break free of that mentality, we have to actually think outside the box. We have to look at the people who are success stories. We have to look at the doctors who are recommending it to people like my aunt with cervical cancer. She had a 1% survival rate. She is free of cancer. It's been years and years because she was prescribed cannabis with a regimen of other natural remedies alongside of adequate targeted chemotherapy.
Yeah, I want to jump in and just say that some of our regulations have prevented, guys, it's one of the reasons why I make fun of roads, has prevented innovation. Okay, we're married to this structure and this pattern, and that structure and pattern is actually stifling innovation. It's a reality. Okay, we can't deny it. When we're arguing over roads, we're not getting flying cars. It's driving me crazy. But and here's Tom drawing the picture of it in the medical marijuana cannabis industry, right? So guys, we're coming up on another break. This is Tim O'Connor. Tom, you're gonna stay for another one?
Absolutely, I got more to say.
All right, we're having a blast today, guys. Thank you for joining us on WYSL a little later in the day on WACK. Hey guys, I named myself the Freedom Variant. Tim O'Connor, the Freedom Variant on Facebook. Okay, on a free solution. It's available on Twitter today. It goes out on YouTube as well. Thank you all for being here. I'll be right back with more Thomas Daniel Queter. More bonus content for you, the internet viewer.
Don't tell anybody.
Be very, very quiet. All right, welcome back. It's your host, your Thursday afternoon host for A Free Solution. It's Tim O'Connor, the Freedom Variant, joined by Thomas Daniel Queter, candidate for New York State Senate, and a guy with a success story about local politics. But now we want to talk a little bit more about marijuana because I think Tom has some things he wants to say about as we legalize marijuana. We already mentioned that big pharma has patented certain medicines from it. But let's talk about that. Like, what direction can this go for us?
So, there's a few ways we can go for this, but let's start with cannabis access. Right now, for myself, if I were to want to purchase medical cannabis, one, I would have to get a card. Two, I would have to go all the way to Broome County to get it.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, there's no medical dispensary near my part of Chenango County. And the problem there is that most people who really need it, we don't travel so well.
Right. Guys, if you
Uh,
don't know, out in the radio audience, Thomas Daniel Queter, one of his catch slogans for his campaign is "I run better than the government." But Tom occupies a wheelchair, but that doesn't change the strength of his courage, the strength of his conviction, and the strength of his character. And guys, he's a brave soul. I just love what he does. I love what he's doing. So I just wanted to point that out. So that's what we were getting to. So if Tom has to load up and drive down to Binghamton, which is about 45 to 50 minutes away from his house.
do I drive, Tim?
What's that?
Do I drive?
No, well, no, you don't. You don't drive at all.
Somebody else do it, wouldn't I?
You have to let someone else do it. That's one of the things you have to rely on your community for, right?
Right.
So
to branch into that, right? Medical is distance oriented, difficult to get right now. Unless you live near one, you have to drive quite a ways to get to one to purchase medical cannabis. With recreational cannabis, guess what? It's the same thing. It's still medicine. You don't have to drive an hour if there's one closer, and you can use it the same way if you educate yourself. I do always advise, and I'm going to put this out there. If you're new to cannabis and you want to try cannabis, make sure whatever dispensary you're getting it at, you say that, and that you want a low percentage or a low dose cannabis, because it is like anything else. You do build a tolerance. You do need to start slowly to adjust and understand its effects. That is the number one safety tip I will give you about cannabis is, the best thing you can do for yourself is to start slow. Even with opiates, anybody with long-term chronic pain, they don't get OxyContin right off the bat.
right.
They start them out on something lighter. The difference being that cannabis isn't poison, and pharmaceuticals tend to be rather bad for you. Let's speak to safety a bit here real quick. The other great thing about having a legal recreational market is that things like the incident that I just heard about. I heard about some kid locally bought some black market cannabis, and it was laced with fentanyl, and he died.
I've heard that story all too often. So there is this incentive, right? To if we legitimize this product, because look, guys, I do drink beer. All right, I want to be very clear about that. I do occasionally have other things besides beer, as far as alcohol goes. A lot of people that doesn't work for. Just like
But
I don't
there's no fentanyl in it.
because I know where I'm buying it from, right? Like I know the supplier. It's a brand name or it's a craft brewer. Like that's how we know a product's real. The get rid of the black market, we're automatically safer. And that's a sad story. I heard that story about that.
Not only are we safer, but we have better access to medicine. Now, I was comparing opiates, prescription opiates, and cannabis. When you get prescription opiates, that's a burden on the healthcare system. That's a cost in the healthcare system. Doesn't matter if you pay for it out of pocket or if you have insurance or if it's Medicaid or Medicare paying for it. That's still a strain on the insurance and on the healthcare system. Cannabis, you buy it yourself or grow yourself. That's also now okay, or going to be okay.
So going to be okay eventually, I guess. Like 2 years down the road or something. Like the ridiculous
months out or something. But that's part of the plan, right?
The state doesn't want the black market revenue of catching illegal pot farms. Like they don't want that to go away right away.
So the one system in our state and in our country that's strained the most is our healthcare system. We saw that through this pandemic, if that's what you want to call it. I don't know how I feel about it yet. But
I know how I feel about it.
I think we've all got a lot of feelings about it, right?
Oh boy,
good, bad, and ugly.
So wait, the solution. Hang on, the free solution to the healthcare crisis was to fire healthcare workers. I just want to put that out there. That's how authoritarians think. But go ahead.
Yeah,
I hope I didn't make you lose your train of thought.
Right. No, I mean, people are not going to get better if they have doctors. We can't allow that.
Oh, but we're laughing, but we're sad about it, guys. We like this.
Oh, very much so.
The government response to COVID has been ridiculous, and all we can do is hope you laugh with us, because this is so bad, so inappropriate. I don't want to take you guys down the wrong road. Like, we're not laughing at the disaster, at people being sick. We're laughing at the government response here that has just been. We got to talk about mask mandates and stuff like that the next segment, but please, let's finish this medical deal here.
Right. We're laughing at their incompetence, and we're laughing as a coping mechanism to deal with the stress of it.
Yes, correct. Thank you for that. Now I feel better about laughing right there.
It is a common coping mechanism. I mean, I make jokes when I get injured because it's the best way to get over it. So cannabis recreational, it brings medicine closer to those who need it. It's still medicine. It brings safety by getting it off the streets and allowing a more kind production, right?
Yeah.
People
Absolutely.
producing it are looking to produce a product that people want to come back to, not something that they don't want. A laced marijuana or cannabis is not something people generally want.
They don't want it. And when there's that incentive, that black market incentive to hook your customers on stuff and keep them coming to you. And fentanyl, we'll do a whole show on fentanyl. It's pure evil. What's going on there? It transports easier. It's in response to the legal issues with drugs.
Let me sum this up quickly.
Yes.
Recreational cannabis brings medicinal cannabis closer to patients who need it, brings down the price, gets rid of black market dangers like laced cannabis, and it bolsters the economy, and it takes some strain off the healthcare system. What's to lose? What is to lose with that combination of factors?
Just transferring the black market to a legit or closer to legit regular market can actually, guys, I'm not a big fan of taxes and stuff like that, but there's people getting into businesses, small businesses. I love that. This is a pathway for it. It's okay. Everything about it's okay by me.
Yes.
And the decriminalization is an added bonus, right? Like, kids are not going to be going to jail for having an ounce of weed on them. Now, though, it may be tax evasion if you're not careful. You got to plan your stuff out, right? Tax evasion is pretty serious. They'll take all your stuff. So be careful with that, you kids.
Yeah. Don't ever get in a situation where you have to pay taxes.
Well, okay. All right. That's a good way to look at it.
That's the best way to be careful about taxes, right?
Yeah, you bet.
I mean, it's just interesting how this is even still a conversation with two sides. The economy is there, the community is there, the medicine is there, the benefits of reducing the strain in the healthcare system is there.
It sounds like
not there.
Not just a win-win, but a win-win-win. So it does sound like a pretty good deal. And guys, anytime we can decriminalize something as undangerous as marijuana, we ought to take a look at our society and do that. Guys, we're coming up on another break, believe it or not. I mean, time flies when Tom and I get together. You should have seen some of the live shows we did when we were campaigning for Senate last year, 2 years ago. It was an absolute blast. Guys, I'm going to keep them around for another segment. I hope you're enjoying this show. Once again, it's me, Tim O'Connor, joined by Thomas and Daniel Queter. There's no quit in Queter, and we'll be right back. Bonus content for you, the internet viewer. Welcome back. Once again, it is me, your host, your Thursday host, Tim O'Connor. I do some other things, guys. I do this Coffee and Freedom show. I haven't done one in about a week or two, but I hope you check out Tim O'Connor, the Freedom Variant. Guys, I'm even on TikTok now. But don't forget the bravery and the beauty of WYSL in Rochester and WACK in New York, actually airing a libertarian show. Now, today, we didn't just talk about overthrowing the government. We talked about an appropriate path forward here with marijuana and cannabis legalization. And as I said to Tom, it's still a little bit over-regulated for me, but this is a step in the right right direction, eliminating black markets, eliminating the possibility of kids going to jail for doing something illegal. And again, I'm not joking about that tax evasion thing, even though I'm kind of joking around. You need to be aware of it. If you're still selling black market weed, you're going to be getting guilty of tax evasion down the road here pretty quick.
Yeah.
So that's reality. So we got to talk about this stuff, Tom. We got to talk about what's going on in the state. And then people are COVID burnt out. Like literally, we're seeing it all over New York State. But like, okay. Kathy Hochul says everybody's got to wear masks, and county legislatures are going, I don't know about that. What do you think about what's happening here in New York State right now?
Well, I'm going to go on ahead and agree with what I believe is the last number I heard of 32 New York counties resisting the mandate this time.
32. It's up to 32. It was 29 earlier.
Yeah. 32 is the last I heard. 32 counties stating we will not comply.
I like the phrase "we will not comply." I'll be honest with you. So we've got 32 people. Now, guys, when I hear this stuff and I hear the discussion, I don't ever feel like it's strong enough. Like they're not saying we won't comply. This mandate's ridiculous. What they're saying is we don't have the funds or the resources to enforce this mandate. And it's like weasel words about it. Okay. I want strong authority. I want strong authoritarian. I don't want strong authoritarians. I want a strong authority-filled statement saying you don't have the right to do this. But if people want to wear masks, they're welcome to wear masks. If stores want you to wear a mask, they're welcome to ask you to wear a mask. That's how I want it to go, man. I want us to be nicer to each other. I want us to believe in each other. And I want to end these authoritarian dictates. So none of it really hits home with me as a libertarian. How do you feel about it? You're like,
well, if I can sum that up, because it sounds like we feel very similar, I would say I want a strong anti-authoritarian message aligned with kindness and acceptance.
That's so much better than the way I was struggling for the words there. And so an anti-authoritarian message saying, look, you don't have the right to do this. Not, we don't have the money to enforce your new mandate, so we're not going to do it. And that's, guys, that's what we're hearing. Okay. And so all that means is Kathy prints some bucks, calls up the National Guard, and we're enforcing this mandate all over the state. What do you think?
So I mean, to be fair, a lot of these counties at this point, after what, it's been almost 2 years, a lot of them probably don't have the money.
That's
probably true.
We laugh, but that's true.
Get the economic squeeze comes down, right? I mean, that's the point at which we break. Everybody wants to eat and stay warm.
Now,
everybody wants to be happy.
Can't Kathy Hochul just National Guard some money? To just be like, look, we're going to National Guard some money. That's it. Don't worry about it.
Have you seen the price of milk lately?
I have. It's really expensive.
Yeah, how much is it?
Well, at the Dollar General, it's like $3.85, $4.10, something like that. It's been the last couple of weeks, but you go to the Price Chopper, it's like $4.80. It's like getting out there, man.
Somebody told me today it was over $5.
That could be at the convenience store, maybe. I don't know. I don't know.
So that's a good thing to talk about because inflation before 2020, before this whole situation, the price of milk hadn't gone up all that much since the 70s, largely due to subsidies and nefariousness from the government. But so we have an industry that's nefariously propped up by the government and subsidized and overproducing and shipping all off to China. And at the same time, we have an economic situation so bad that despite them driving that price down so hard with all of our tax dollars, it's now more than doubled, despite all of their efforts.
Yeah.
How big of a banana peel was that?
Yeah, I don't know, man. We've put the screws to the small farmers. We've propped up big farmers, and now milk's still going through the roof, man.
A friend of mine said something to me the other day. He said, now's the time to take out massive personal debt because in 10 years, you'll be able to pay it back with a loaf of bread.
Which guys that argument was made by somebody on the 99% should love inflation. The problem with loving inflation, if you're in the 99%, is your wages don't go up as fast and generally go up slightly slower than the rate of inflation. So the theory about borrowing massive debt, guess what? It's not going to work for you. Your rate of pay isn't going to grow fast enough to counteract it. It's really bad advice. Just like the Argentinian advice. I don't know if you saw this one coming out the wire. It was from Bloomberg, man. Or was it?
They tell us to pay our debts.
Yeah, they're like, the way to handle inflation is to spend your paycheck the day you get it, because by Monday prices could go up again. And it's like,
Right.
wow.
That's what my friend meant about taking on massive personal debt. Because if you borrow $10,000 today, and even if you pay it back with interest in 10 years, it's really only going to be worth a loaf of bread.
At the rate they're going. I just saw something that came through the wire. Being an esteemed member of the news media, 26% wholesale inflation in the month of November. Guys, welcome to Argentina. Welcome to Venezuela. You are about to realize what it's going to take to get a loaf of bread. It's going to get, I think it's going to get worse. Okay. There's been times when the government has messed up their participation in the economic system. Queter and I probably remember, some of you kids out there probably don't realize it. Like back in the 70s, we had this thing called stagflation, where everything was going up incredibly fast.
Wasn't alive.
What's that? You weren't alive? Oh,
I
you're
wasn't
a
alive
kid.
in the
I
70s.
forgot about
Yep.
that. Well,
Not
in
that long.
the stagflation of the 70s, everything was going up so fast. And even then, they used to raise people's wages and stuff like that, but not fast enough to keep up with inflation. It was a disaster. And it
Right.
was
So
all about the government getting involved in the markets, just like they are now.
I saw somebody recently make the comparison. Wages went up by 3-point-something% real quick recently, while inflation was 6-point-something%. That means the cost of living was up 6-point-something%, and your wages only went up by 3-point-something%. So what is there to celebrate? I was just talking to someone today, and he was all in an uproar, and he said, I saw a sign, starting wages $22 an hour. Don't people know how to work anymore? For a retail job, $22 an hour. And I had to explain to him, that $22 isn't worth as much as the previous minimum wage.
Yeah. And I will say that people don't seem to want to work anymore, but that's maybe a different show. But yeah, the numbers, I'm seeing $3,000 sign-on bonuses for bus drivers. And then I'm talking to a bus driver at my kid's wrestling match, and he's like, doesn't matter. People still aren't signing up. We still don't have enough bus drivers to do this gig. The problem is the government response to COVID in New York State has really made a lot of people who would do bus driving as a second job or an ancillary job leave the state. Okay. That's an absolute fact. They're gone. How do we get them back? Freedom, but no one's listening to, well, they're starting to listen to us, Tom, right? Like,
yeah. So if it can, what we see here and what we're talking about, right, is hard times that are coming. We all understand. Hard times are coming. And that's where things like volunteerism and choosing to do things and charitable donations and being charitable with your time is going to come into play and be important. I'm actually pushing to have a volunteerism movement within my campaign to help people learn how they can help each other in their own communities.
Hold on, I got to jump in right here. Let me jump in. You just had a wonderful experience with people pitching in and giving you a hand. And guys, this is why Queter he runs better than the government. Wheelchair van problems, what happened?
So I didn't get to vote in the general election this year. I went to go to the town hall and vote, and the van died. The van was already on its last leg. We beat the heck out of it through the campaign because I went all over district. And to that note, the van was done. I was talking to some people. I said, I got a campaign coming up. I got to run again. I've got more things to do in life. I've got to replace this van. And David Gay, the admin of the $5 charity memes club.
Yeah.
Facebook. Sorry if I got that wrong. David Gay has a group to organize crowdfunding, and he organized one for my replacement wheelchair accessible van, and he crowdfunded the entire amount in 23 hours.
In 23 hours, they got you enough money to get the van. They asked you how much you wanted first, and they got you the van, and they got you a couple extra bucks for gas too, didn't they?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. It went over by almost $3,000.
All right, guys, at Tom for 52, you've got to check him out. You got to help this guy spread the message of liberty. It's Tim O'Connor. It's a free solution. Thank you all